Live from Lagos, this is Lunchtime Politics. I'm Jeffrey Uzama, bringing you up to speed with the big happenings in politics and in the polity at midday. Let's begin with the headlines. Mr. Julius Abure insists he's still the chairman of the Labour Party, despite the Supreme Court judgment setting aside an appellate court judgment that upheld his leadership of the party. Federal government assures it will boost the non-revenue sector to cushion the adverse effect to the trade tariff imposed on countries by President Donald Trump. And we engage the national chairman of the All Progressives Grand Alliance on the outcome of the party's primary and the challenges in retaining the governorship seat come November 2025. Thanks again for joining us on the program. Let's get things started with the announcement by the Minister of Finance, Wale Odun, giving assurances that the National Economic Council will assess the likely impact of the 14% tariff on goods exported from Nigeria to the United States and make recommendations to cushion its impact on the nation's economy. Ms. Edu was speaking at an event organized by the Ministry of Finance Incorporated, says that while the adverse effect on Nigeria will be through oil price plunge, the government is intensifying efforts to ramp up production and boost non-oil revenues.
This meeting, organized by the Ministry of Finance Incorporated, is bringing together government officials, development institutions, and heads of government, departments, and agencies towards ensuring accountability and transparency through corporate governance. Over the years, corporate governance in Nigeria has evolved using a combination of statutory frameworks and regulatory codes aimed at enhancing corporate accountability and performance. Government officials plan to now take this vision seriously.
There has not been a consistent effort to actually institutionalize performance-based corporate governance in the public sector. And today, this is a very important event. It's very significant because it is laying the foundation for good corporate governance. MOFI is the friendly partner, guide, and host, and assistant in this journey.
We need to ensure that these institutions that are owned by states or are linked to the states have the capacity, have the credibility, and have the ability to go out there and mobilize capital, both domestic and foreign.
At a time when nations across the globe are contending with economic uncertainties, financial vulnerabilities, and the demand for structural reform, the discourse on the corporate governance assumes greater relevance.
For us in the Nigerian power sector, good corporate governance is not a luxury. It's not a nice to have. It is a necessity for national competitiveness, for financial sustainability, and for inclusiveness in our service delivery strategy. And we expect that this forum will serve as a catalyst, not just for dialogue, but for action.
The Minister of Finance then comments on the 14% tariff hike on goods imported from Nigeria to the United States and how the government intends to tackle them.
For the economic management team of Mr. President, and for indeed his whole government, we are going back to the drawing board to look at the scenarios that may play out if the current tariff situation is prolonged. For Nigeria, in terms of exports, it's not too bad because oil, minerals are excluded by America.
After the speeches, the Corporate Governance Code is then launched. The code is to serve as a guide towards ensuring accountability and transparency in all government transactions.
Now, let's talk about some politics. The Supreme Court's tone of finality on the leadership of the Labour Party appears not to have given closure to the tussle of who is the chairman of the party, as Mr. Julius Abure is still laying claim to the national chairmanship of the party. Mr. Abure insists on his position during a National Executive Committee meeting of the party in Abuja, where he notes that the Apex Court was clear about the verdict on party supremacy, stressing that the party matters are internal affairs of political platforms.
Landscape. It is, however, regrettable that certain actors, most notably Senator Nanadi Usman, who ironically is not a member of our party, and Delitu Nuo Kocha, have chosen to misrepresent the ruling, deliberately misleading the public and attempting to manufacture confusion through a purported caretaker committee. Let it be stated categorically that the so-called committee is both unconstitutional and illegitimate. Let it be known within the Federation and beyond that there is no vacuum in the leadership of Labour Party.
Interesting development in the Labour Party, but we'll switch gears now to talk about the All Progressives Grand Alliance. Saturday, just 2 days or 3 days ago, there were primaries held across different political parties, APGA, Labour Party, and the APC. And of course, APGA, the party has unanimously voted to give the ticket to the incumbent governor, Soludo, who will be contesting for re-election in November this year, towards the completion of his term in office. So we just want to have a conversation as to what played out on Saturday, as to what we should be looking forward to, even though the campaign has not started. We're being joined in the program by the national chairman of the All Progressives Grand Alliance, Mr. Sly Ozekonwa. He joins us from Abuja studio. Mr. Ozekonwa, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Yeah, thank you, my brother Geoffrey. And I know it may be very bit difficult for you to pronounce, but never mind.
No, it's not that difficult. It's not that difficult. Okay, I know that your party, literally every political party, the Supreme Court gave a ruling, a judgment, not just a ruling. The Labour Party, we're still having issues. The PDP, still having issues. A couple of other parties, you barely just came out of that back and forth between you and the gentleman was...
Absolutely.
So it looks like your party is a bit stable right now. Is it to the effect that you're better organized, or the APC is not seeing you as a viable opposition, so no need to disturb you? Because some are accusing the APC of being responsible for some of the divisions in the parties.
You know, well, it was a two-pronged question, of which somehow you have provided a context or an answer to it, you know, with respect to the allegation. For us, the issues we had in APGA were very clear. And the issues, like we rightly said, were caused by political merchants. For me, I never for once pointed any accusing fingers at the All Progressive Congress, you know, of being behind the crisis that I passed through. For us, there was a judgment of the Supreme Court. Well, it's not actually the topic of our discussion, but just for contextual purposes, there was a judgment of the Supreme Court that some persons misrepresented and went as far as trying to shop for a ruling from, or a judgment from a lower court. And for someone who is a lawyer, it is unheard of that an action is brought before a lower court seeking for an interpretation or purported enforcement of the Supreme Court judgment. That was the issue we had. By incidentally, the Supreme Court laid it to rest on the 27th of November. Sadly, in fact, it's very, very funny, but I don't want to go into some issues now. Some persons who are masquerading as candidates today in Anambra State were actually behind that, you know, ordeal, trying to hijack the party. And when they failed, they now ran to the ruling party where they have now gone to pick the ticket. But so, of course, we will get to that issue. So for us, as a political party, it's not that the APC does not see us as a credible and a formidable opposition. No, that's not the issue. Because like I said, from day one, APC had no hand whatsoever in the crisis or the crisis that we faced. Now, APGA is united, formidable. As ever, if you recall, all throughout the time that we were in court, in that time, I was consistent in saying that APGA is united. What you see are people who are not members of the party trying to steal the structure of the party through the back door. But like I said earlier on, we thank God that is way, way behind us now. We are focused, as far as we are concerned for the November 8th governorship election.
So maybe you tell us how you were able to rally every other interest. I know that when you have an incumbent, there's the right of first refusal when it comes to re-election, especially if the person is interested. But tell us about, but that doesn't mean you don't have elements that are perhaps disgruntled within the party, and you were very confident that they're going to work for you in November. So how were you able to rally all interests to say, okay, let's allow the governor complete a second term?
Incidentally, let me even shock you. Nobody, not one person, expressed interest, under our platform for the office of the governorship, for the office of the governor of Anambra State in the November 8th election. Not one person. And I think for the first time, the party, like you said, coming from, a very protracted leadership tussle, of course, we got our judgment on the 27th of November, and then what followed was, the first ever National Executive Committee meeting of our great party under our leadership. And the party leaders came together to commend the governor of Anambra State. And he said clearly from the inception or from the creation of the state in 1991 till date, using every available statistics and data, that we've not had a governor who has delivered on his mandate as much as Professor Soludo has done within the past 3 years. And so the question is not just about contesting an election. It's about contesting an election to do what? That's the question on the lips of every other person, every Anambrarian. If you come to Anambra State today, looking at the trajectory of leadership that APGA has provided, I always say this, from 2006, when we had our first governor, till date, and now you ask yourself, what has happened in the past 3 years, from the 17th of March 2022, that Professor Charles Soludo took over the mantle of leadership in Anambra, and what he has been able to achieve relative to the resources available to him. The question is, what are you coming to do? Because if you say you're going to run for an office, if you say you're going to remove an incumbent, then it must be purely on capacity. It must be purely on merit. So the question every person will ask you is, what are you coming to offer that is different or that the present government has not done? And so you look at every sector of the economy as far as we are concerned today in Anambra, from education to road infrastructure to health to human capital to deployment of technology to women empowerment to youth involvement in politics, in all round. The question is, what are you coming to do?
Right,
and I think this is the first election that we do not have much interest across every other political party. This is the first election in a very long time in my state that you do not see.
My apologies. Listening to you, you feel like the state of Anambra is uhuru already. I don't think the opposition will agree to that. I had a conversation with Mr. Nicholas Ukachukwu, who is the APC governorship candidate, yesterday.
Yes.
And one of the things he said to me was the fact that I read somewhere before he said some of the things he said to me. I think he said it as well, if I can remember properly, like, he has played critical role in every person who has become a governor, to the best of my understanding. I think APGA or any person who has become a governor in the state. So he knows this rope, he knows how to walk this path. So my question to you is, is the APC, hold on just a moment, Mr. Slide. Just a moment.
Yes.
Is Mr. Ukachukwu Nicholas a threat? Are you concerned about a possible upset? Again, is he going to be able to deliver the APC from where you sit? And of course, people are pointing fingers to the fact that the president has also appointed Bianca Ojukwu, who is the wife of the late Ikemba of Nnewi, Ondo, which is more like the ancestral home of APGA in that sense, that collective. That is the rallying point of APGA. You get my point?
Yes, definitely. But I'm going to take your questions one by one. First of all, of course, I listened to that conversation. I think just this morning I woke up and I saw it on social media, and then I just had a very good laugh. I had a very good laugh. APC primaries started quite late on Saturday, and then dragged until quite early in the morning. So I think probably his brain had shut off when he made that allegation, because if not that, from 2003, for anybody who has followed Anambra politics, from 2003 till date, Nicholas Ukachukwu has been contesting virtually every election, from Senate to governorship. You know, he's been to about 5, 6, 7 political parties, and he has never won any election. So it's quite strange, you know, if not the word preposterous, for someone to come on live TV and make such very, very curious allegation about helping people realize their ambition for elections that he contested. Either he didn't get the party ticket or that he actually lost in the main election. But that is not the case here. You talked about APC being a formidable opposition for Anambra State. As far as we are concerned, the question is very simple. In Anambra today, we have 3 senatorial seats. We have 11 House of Rep seats. We have 30 House of Assembly seats. Of course, we have the seat of the governor. We have the deputy governor. We have 21 chairmanship seats. Of course, the 21 deputy mayors in the various local government and 326 councillors. In all this, APC does not occupy 1 seat. Not one. APC in Anambra is not the first political party, it's not the second, it's neither the third nor the fourth. And so if you are to conduct the election today in Anambra, the APC will comfortably take the 4th or the 5th position. So the issue of providing trying to provide a formidable opposition is even a non-starter. It does not exist as far as
but if you begin to say that as well,
can come and of course make any claim.
Just a moment. I also want you to comment on the Bianca Ojukwu element that I spoke about. Also, I know that except they've defected, because these days they are just a moment, sir. There have been defections, so sometimes we have to trace to be sure that our facts are right. I know that in the Senate, apart from the late Uba that passed on, which we understand elections will be held, the 2 senators are Labour Party. Out of the 10 members of the House of Reps, I think just about 4 or 5 are members of APGA. That is a Labour Party, correct me if I'm wrong. I think where you have an overwhelming majority is in the State House of Assembly. So even as a ruling party, you're lagging in that sense.
No. It's not correct to say that. You see, Anambra is a very unique state. And I say this with every sense of responsibility. If you recall in that election, our brother, the former governor of Anambra State, incidentally, who served as the governor of Anambra State on the platform of APGA, was a major contender in that election. And for Anambra people, they felt, okay, if we have someone in the caliber of Mr. P to be running for the office of the president, then, I think the better thing for us to do is to go with our brother. Of course, that was the case with respect to that National Assembly elections and how we went. But still, in spite of that, APGA held it forth, and we were able to get some persons. Of course, for even the Senate, the margin was quite insignificant. So that is for that particular election. But then, in 2-3 weeks' time, there was a House of Assembly election, and of course, APGA won an overwhelming majority. And so that tells you how formidable and how rooted APGA is in Anambra politics. Then you talked about the wife of our former national leader, late Dim Odumegwu Ojukwu. You know, the point must be made. And of course, in that, I've always commended the president for running what I call an inclusive government. Because till date, Lady Bianca Ojukwu, Ambassador Bianca Ojukwu, is still a card-carrying member of the All Progressive Grand Alliance and a member of our board of trustees. You know, same goes for the new MD and CEO of the Southeast Development Commission that was just sworn in by Mr. President or inaugurated by Mr. President. And so for us, we don't have, I always say this, if you go to Anambra State today, there is a consensus of opinion that Professor Charles Soludo has done incredibly well and that he deserves to return again. Funny enough, while all this galore of endorsements and thank you rallies and all whatnot are going on around the state, the man is still focused, delivering on his promise, because he always says is that his is an agenda with a deadline, and that he cannot go back to the Anambra people and say, please, I did not fulfill this part of my campaign promise or this part of my manifesto because of so and so excuse. There are no excuses. He always says that he knew...
Let's
okay, go on
for a moment. Just a moment, yes. Because I want to have your take on a couple of issues. So we're going to come to issues around campaign. Campaign hasn't started. Where we'll probe this performance that you spoke glowingly about. That time will come. But it appears to me, and in just one straight answer, it appears to me that for you, this election, as far as this particular election in November is concerned, you don't have any viable opposition that can offset the APGA party. Is a walk in the park? Is that what you're saying?
It's not for me. Mind you, it's not for me. For me, I'm a politician. I see every contest as one that should be formidable, because anybody that is going into an election is going into an election to win. Yeah. Even if he belongs to a political party that does not exist, maybe, or virtually exists on paper, he's going there to win. And so for me, I see this election for me as a very serious one. But I'm telling you that the consensus of opinion amongst the Anambra is that there is no contest from diverse areas. So it's not just about me. I'm telling you the opinion of the Anambra.
Okay.
So when I say that there is actually no contest, okay, now.
Go ahead.
Let me just answer you. Let me just explain what I mean by a consensus of opinion amongst the Anambra. Like I said earlier on, if you're looking at Anambra State, you're looking at various critical sectors. The question has been asked. Today, Anambra State is the top state in the entire country in education. It has the least out of school male children in the entire country. It has the best performing secondary schools in WAEC and in JAM across the entire country. If you come to human capital, Anambra is #1. If you come to health, even in primary health care, Anambra State just won a prize of about $1.2 million, making it the first in the Southeast and the #1 in the entire country. So there are critical issues, critical awards, critical avenues for assessment that the people have looked. And the question on everybody's lips is simple. If you are saying you're contesting, sorry, my brother Geoffrey, sorry, just to make this point. If you say you're contesting an election against an incumbent that is generally adjudged as having performed exceedingly well, then there must be something extraordinary that you're bringing to the table.
You know,
incidentally, I listened to the candidate of the...
Mr. Okenwa, sorry, you know, I said I'm going to have to take on a couple of things, you know. You are a politician, you are the leader of the party, so I do not expect you to hold back in speaking very glowingly about the governor and his leadership. As I said, today is not to, you know, look at the scorecard. We're just talking politics. When we come to the scorecard, we're going to pitch that against each other and we'll know how well he did or how he didn't do.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about one other concern I have before, as we begin to wind down. The inability of APGA as a political party, in my words now, to say, quote unquote, rise above the waters. One of the things that Mr. Nicholas mentioned yesterday, which I don't think anybody can debate, is that APGA is still a one-party state. Is it that the party doesn't have an ambition to go beyond Anambra? Because that seems to be like a comfort zone and like it's a sit-tight element in that aspect.
Yeah. You know, that question is a question for me that is at the core of our mandate to reposition APGA. Remember, I got into office after the 2023 general election. And under our watch and with the continued support of the national leader, Professor Charles Soludo, we've been trying as much as possible to go to the drawing board to see why has APGA over the years been confined to Anambra State. But then, that notion may equally not be entirely correct. If you remember...
Mr. Sly, just a moment. I apologize, please. My apologies. I understand we're supposed to go for a break. When we come back, you land on your thought. My apologies. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We still have Mr. Sly Ezeokenwa, the APGA National Chairman, who has been speaking with me before we went on the break. Mr. Ezeokenwa, thank you for staying with us. We have about 2-3 minutes to go. So if you can wrap up your thoughts on why APGA has not emerged beyond Anambra State, and I throw in one more question.
Yes. So like I said, of course, 2011, it's it's a known fact. We won the Imo governorship election when we had Rochas Okorocha. It's not the fault of APGA that he decided to defect. 2015, funny enough, the current and the incumbent governor of Abia State ran election on the platform of APGA in 2015. And it is widely known that he won that election, save for some irregularities that, went on after the election that, led to him, another person actually being declared as the governor. But the point is, APGA has consistently made inroads in various parts of the country. Today, we have elected member in Taraba State. We have elected members of the House of Assembly in Bayelsa. We have elected members of the House of Assembly in Ebonyi. APGA has won about 2 area council seats in FCT here. So for me, the future is quite bright. But one thing we've consistently made, and that we've consistently said so, and I've said this on various interviews on TVs, I will always urge Nigeria to look towards APGA. Because if you're consistently calling out bad leadership in any part of this country, maybe at the federal level or at the state level, or for any reason whatsoever, if you feel that the problem with the country is leadership, then why don't you look towards APGA that has consistently minted good leaders? We have consistently, from the governors we've had from Mr. Peter Obi to former Governor Willie Obiano and now Professor Charles Soludo, because there is something unique about APGA.
All right, Mr. Sly.
APGA as a political party, just a point. APGA as a political party believes in the ideology of leaving no one behind. So we are interested in serving the people and providing the dividends of democracy to the poorest of the poor and the vulnerable in the society. That's the hallmark of APGA.
I wish we could take more time, but in 1 minute, you don't even have up to a minute, 30 seconds, is APGA thinking of a coalition? Because everybody is now talking of coalition. PDP, SDP, Labour Party, back and forth. Is APGA thinking of a coalition?
For me, as a national chairman of APGA, there is this point we always make. APGA is a progressive political party. And we have, if we see like-minded progressives, then why not? We'll go to the National Executive Committee meeting and then we'll iron it out. Yes.
Okay. It's an ongoing conversation, but I must thank you, Sly Ezekwinwa, the national chairman of the All Progressives Grand Alliance. The season for real campaign conversation will come. Today is just an offshoot of the primaries that took place on Saturday. So let's find out how your party is doing and what the chances are for you in the coming election. But as soon as the campaign doors are open, we'll bring you in. We'll bring the governor in and everybody who has to talk about this.
Yes.
All right.
I'd be more than glad to be here to equally join you. Thank you. Thank you
Fantastic.
very much. And to our listeners, I say thank you.
All right. All right, that's it on the program. Thank you so much for your time and, of course, your usual company. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. You've been served on Lunchtime Politics. Bye-bye.